Well, I gotta go hit the bricks.
Okay, you show those bricks a lesson.
Grim Fandango is a point-and-click adventure game developed by LucasArts. You play as Manuel Calavera, a soul who works at the Department of Death, selling travel options to the recent dead to work off whatever bad thing he did when he was alive. He constantly gets poor clients and thinks he's getting shafted by his boss. Only when he begins to take matters into his own hands does he discover the underworld isn't everything as it seems. The game is a story-driven experience where you travel around the world attempting to progress the plot through certain set pieces. Sometimes you have to find a certain object and give it to someone. Other times you have to make the right conversation choices.
Mean to animals?
Oh no, I love animals. Once, when I was volunteering at an animal shelter,
Just stop right there.
Either way, the gameplay itself is secondary to the story. Initially, you're just trying to get yourself a good client. You are given a memo telling you a mass poisoning has occurred, and there are hundreds of dead people who need travel agents. However, because you take too long to get to the poisoning, you get a bad client while your rival gets a great one. Mind you, he did sabotage your chances of getting a good client though. If you're a fan of the original game, you're probably asking, what's new in this remake? Grim Fandango Remastered isn't much more different from the original game visually. While the graphics have been improved, the game was already stylized in such a way that making it any better looking would take away from the experience. Manuel's movement is also improved. You can choose between the old tank-style controls, where pressing left and right slowly turn you left or right, or the new controls, where you go in whatever direction you're pressing. But probably the biggest improvement is the addition of a cursor. In the original, you had buttons which inspected, interacted, or picked up nearby objects. In this version, you can hover over set piece and interact with it. It makes it much easier for players who haven't played through the game hundreds of times to find out what you can work with and what you can't. But besides that, the gameplay and story are identical. Same characters, same voice actors and cutscenes, same items scattered around the city. I have never played adventure games as a kid. Like many of my generation, we were raised on a quick-paced, easy reward game system. We never really grew up on a slow and subtle pace PC adventure games had. So I had trouble playing this game. For a while I was getting it. Sure, climbing up an unexplained chain of ties to the roof of your 30-story building doesn't make sense, but as long as the story progresses, who really cares? The first thing that stumped me was when I had to intercept my rival, Domino's, mail tube. First, you have to sabotage the mail system so the mechanic opens up the locked area where Domino's mail goes through. There is a short cutscene where the mechanic pulls out a thin metal plate out from his tube after he's done repairing it, so that tells me I have to find something to replace that. I searched all over and couldn't find anything. I finally submitted myself to the internet, only to figure out that I had to pick up a seemingly useless pack of cards, punch a hole through one of them, and then put that card in the slot to block one of Domino's incoming mail packages. Call me lazy or uncreative, but I feel like that's a little convoluted. I know some of you will tell me, you and your generation are so impatient and stupid, you couldn't figure out anything unless you had an arrow pointing you the way. No, that's fair, imaginary person. We are too impatient. But we aren't psychic. How am I supposed to know to scour Domino's office for an odd piece of coral, attach it to the other end of the tie chain, use it like a grappling hook to get to the roof, and place the cat balloon inside a bowl while also crumbling a baguette into it to attract a flock of dead birds to the bowl, but also scare them off? Again, I feel like that's a little convoluted. And to top it all off, I initially put the baguette in the bowl, only to have it eaten by the birds. Then realizing that I should have used the cat balloon to scare them off, I took it out, and the game froze. I stopped playing then, not only because I haven't saved for a while, but because I can probably experience all I need from the game by watching someone's YouTube compilation of all the cutscenes. Yes, that's lazy. Yes, that's uncreative. But playing a game where the main interaction is figuring out which object to rub against another doesn't sound like my cup of tea. But for what it's worth, the characters seem lovable, and the story definitely is both creative and interesting.
Your driver said that Mr. Hurley said that he could have the rest of the day off.
Domino sent my driver home?
Yeah, wasn't that nice?
So, if you were a fan of the game or played it as a child, this is probably the best version of the game you can get. However, if you're like me and never played the game before, you'd be better off saving your money and watching the unofficial YouTube movie. Grim Fandango Remastered is available on Steam for $17.
Who you calling a scumbag? Why, I oughta...